Previously on Art versus Arteria. You're going to be in the same position that you're in right now next month, next year, next 5 years. You're going to be in the same position if you don't get started. Nothing changes until you change. So get up off your ass after you watch this video and go start. Just fucking start. Yo, what's happening? Welcome to Art versus Arteria. My name is Arteria, aka Art, and this is my YouTube channel where I talk to myself while talking to you. You know, basically, I'm talking to myself as I'm talking to you, trying to inspire, using my experiences in the process. So, last video, we spoke about just how you should just get started on the task that you've been putting off. And so, if you haven't gotten started on that task that you've been procrastinating on, feel free to check out that video. And if you have, this video, I would like to talk about motivation and how I feel like motivation is overrated. Why is motivation overrated, you ask? Well, motivation is fleeting. It doesn't last. Or it comes and it goes. So I think motivation, at some point will betray you if you're relying on it. A lot of people rely on motivation to get started on something or to continue doing something that they want to do to fulfill a goal that they have. And I think that's a recipe for failure. Because like I said, motivation comes and it goes. A lot of people rely on other people for motivation. Like, yo, will you go with me to the gym, for instance? Let's use me. For example, myself. Back when I first started working out years and years ago, right? I started off with a trainer. When I first started taking this serious, I had a trainer. And he was he was the source of motivation, because essentially that's what trainers do. They push you and they motivate you to keep going and to go harder every time you come, right? And so that was my motivation. Now, I went through a situation where, I was married, and then I went through a separation and a divorce. And during that time, I could not afford to keep the trainer that I had. And so I ended up falling off from the gym completely for like a few years, man, like 3 or 4 years maybe. Fast forward, when I decided to go back to the gym, I had a couple of friends. We came up with a, idea. We were working together, so we said, yo, let's start we all wanted to get in shape, get in the gym. And we would get off work, we worked like 12-hour shifts. We would get off sometimes in the morning and be like, yo, let's hit the gym before we go home and sleep. Let's go to the gym, And over time, and for a while, that worked, right? That worked for, a few weeks, probably even a few months. We were going to the gym steady because we had each other to rely on, But over the course of time, we started to fade. It might be rainy one morning and one of us be like, yeah, you know what, man, I'm kind of tired. I'm going to go home. I don't think I'm going to go to the gym today. Or, man, we'll get home. Sometimes we'll go home, go get our clothes, and then one of us will text in the group text and be like, I think I'm going to just stay home, man. I ain't going to go. It's cold outside. It's snowing or anything. Started making excuses, and eventually you figured it out. We fell off completely. And we all stopped going because we were relying on each other. We were relying on something outside of us for motivation instead of relying on what's inside of us. So, in my opinion, the key for that is self-discipline. And basically what all self-discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. Doing that thing that needs to be done, even when you do not feel like doing it, because you're not going to always feel like doing it. And so, back to my example of going to the gym, once I decided I needed to do it for myself as opposed to relying on outside sources, I pushed through and developed that self-discipline. I pushed through, and I started one day at a time. I started going one day at a time, and it became a habit. Through self-discipline, it became a habit. So now, fast forward to today, once I don't go now for a couple of days, I don't feel right. It feels funny because it's a part of who I am now, you know? And so I say all that to say self-discipline trumps motivation, because through self-discipline, you will develop self-motivation, because you will build up the callus inside your mind mentally. You will build that up. You will build up the mental toughness to push through on days you don't even feel like going. So right now, like even now, present day, there are days I wake up and I'm like, man, I do not feel like going to work out. And most of those days I push through. Some days I don't go. Sometimes you gotta listen to your body and be like, yo, no, I'm tired. You need a rest. But for the most part, it's who I am now. It's part of my personality. It's part of who I am. So I developed that habit over time because I pushed through on the days that I didn't feel like going. And that's all I wanted to say on this video. Motivation is a betrayer. It won't always be there. And what are you going to do on those days when you don't have the motivation? The damn battery died. Anyway, what I was saying was motivation is a betrayer. And so what are you going to do on those days where you don't feel like going to the gym or doing the not even the gym? I'm talking, that was an example that I was using for myself. But what are you going to do on those days where you don't feel like working towards your goals that you set for yourself? You just not going to do it because you don't feel like it? Like, that's a lazy attitude. And like I say, I'm talking to myself as I'm talking to you because I've been through it, and I still struggle with it at times, doing certain things that I know I need to be doing. Some days I'll be like, man, I'll get to it tomorrow. Or I get to it later, or man, I just don't feel like doing it, so I put it off for days. Those days turn into months. Sometimes those months turn into years. I got goals that I had written down back years ago that I'm ashamed of, that I didn't complete because I didn't feel motivated to do it. And that's a tale for another time, but I know a lot of y'all can relate to that, so I'm putting it out there, man. Don't rely on motivation. Don't rely on outside sources for yourself, for accomplishing what you want to accomplish. Don't rely on outside sources. Develop that self-discipline, man. Rely on what's inside of you, because you got it inside of you. You just got to pull it out, you know? So don't rely on anybody else to help you accomplish what you need to accomplish. Rely on what's inside of you, and you're going to have to push through. You're going to have to use self-discipline in order to develop that self-motivation, because it will develop over time. You will build those habits, those good habits, once you start pushing through when you don't feel like it. So that's all I got for y'all for this video, man. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And until next time, peace.